earlier today I had a conversation with a friend, and I feel like I kind of failed a little bit in, or at least on the listening side of the conversation. We were just kind of discussing theories that we have about what's actually going on this planet, the universe, and what's beyond the universe. And while they were going into something that they were talking about, I continuously not I don't know how they would look upon it, but I continuously interrupted them just to clarify points. And it's kind of left me in a spot where I don't know if I was being kind of an asshole or if um, I was just trying to help the conversation go a little bit smoothly so that at least I could understand what was going on and participate in the conversation further, or at least um, push the theory to a further extent, because that's one of the things that I think is very important to do, is to never really just rest on where a theory is, but actually do your best to develop it to as far as you can push it, and then once you push it as far as it can go, get other people involved to maybe able to push it further, and once they do that, maybe you can even take those ideas and push the theory further and further until you finally end up with uh, a theory. But the theory should always be developing and pushing, as far as you possibly can get them, and they should always develop into. Sorry about that. They should always develop with. Sorry, I'm losing my train of thought here, but the important thing is is that I didn't really listen all too well, and it's something that I ask of the people that I talk to and whatnot to listen to me, to not necessarily interrupt and to not push us backwards, because it's one thing that really drives me nuts, is to get to a point and then someone brings up an idea that just pushes us backwards and backwards. And for some reason, that's just a pet peeve of mine that I need to work on, is going backwards, because it's just something that really feels unpleasant. I yeah, I just don't like it, and I think I did that today. And although I don't think I hurt the friend, I did the conversation did end pretty much shortly right after that. Um, and so that's just something that I thought I would touch on, is the importance of listening. And it's something that is kind of a weak side to me. It's not that I don't listen, because I listen to a lot of podcasts, I listen to a lot of videos on YouTube. I listen all the time. It's just when it's on something that I think I understand, or I might, and this is going to make me sound kind of come off as a jerk, but might understand a little bit more than other people. It's hard for me to listen to something that people are discussing that isn't necessarily beneath me, because that's not the right words, or behind me, but isn't, you know, up to par, or at least all the facts that are being brought forward in the theory aren't necessarily, at least in my opinion, the most recent facts. And so it's kind of a troubled spot for me, because I don't want to come off as a jerk, but I also, there's a limited amount of time on this planet for all of us. And it's indeterminate of how long we actually have. Now, we take for granted that each day has somewhere around 24 hours in it, and that each life, usually lasts between the 80 and 100 years, if you live them well, but there's no guarantees in that. And because there's no guarantees, I don't really want to spend so much time uh, dealing with things that we could be doing a lot more effectively. And that's one of the things that when people discuss their theories, if I have something that I think can push it forward, then I'll interject. But looking back at it, maybe that's not the right thing, and maybe what I just need to do is bite my tongue. And really, when it comes down to it, that's what I'm asking of you. When you listen to what I have to say, if you don't have something that's uh, not necessarily like creative criticism, but something that will add to the discussion in a not necessarily positive way, but just in a forward-moving way, like pushing it forward, pushing it in a forward motion, then maybe I am asking for people to, sort of bite their tongues, because so many people have different beliefs, and as I discussed in episode 1 with the introductions, all I'm asking for, or in episode 1 of the introductions, I talk about, the silver threads or whatnot, and how they're so tough to break for people and their beliefs. And it's, maybe that's something that I need to look into as well. Because we're not perfect, guys. And we have our faults. And we're going to screw up. And we're all, we all have kind of an idea, I think, of how we want to live our lives and how we'd like people to interact in our lives. And the only reason why I think that is because I have those ideals. In a perfect world, we wouldn't have money. We would just meet with people and talk and discuss things. We wouldn't worry about advancing technology. It would be a very simple world. And the thing is that works for me. And that might not work for you. And the difficult part with that is it's hard for me to listen to people when they discuss things like that. And that's a skill that I need to, I guess, learn. It's funny though, because it goes against not it, it it goes against the fundamentals of how I live my life. Not saying that how I live my life is the correct way by any means. I mean, if you were to look at me on paper, I'm not the most successful person in the world. I'm a single man that lives with his dog, so I don't have a family per se, or at least, as some people would say, their own family. Um, I have a mom and a dad. I have a sister. I have a couple stepsisters, a couple stepbrothers. Stepmom, stepdad, that kind of thing, right? And so there's a family there, but it's not, I don't have my own children. I don't have a wife. I don't have a girlfriend, that kind of thing. And so on paper, people would probably look at my life as nothing to, nothing to write about. And that's okay, but it's who I am. It's what I've chosen, it's how I've chosen to live my life. And what that has also allowed me, though, the single life and not having to worry about family, not, being able to lower my expenses has allowed me to live a more simple life and really, when it comes down to it, listen to my own thoughts. And to me, although listening to other people's thoughts are important, I also have to, when it comes down to it, at the very end of the day, the only person that I'm with 100% of the time is me. And if I'm second guessing my own thoughts, more than what any normal person should be, then really what's the point? How am I ever going to help anybody if I'm always second guessing and I'm not confident in what I, talk about? So here's kind of the rock and the hard place situation. Because I have so much time to think, I'm self-employed to a point. And there's a lot of time in the day where I can just sit and reflect on things. And it's allowed me to really, really, really take on spirituality as a whole at such a great level. And it's allowed me to do one thing that not a lot of people, I think, on this planet get a chance to do, which is really, 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 really take the time and think and think and think and think about what is beyond this planet. And the only reason why I can get there is because I listen to myself. And because, and all I want to do is share those thoughts with people. And I don't have a lot of time on this planet. I'm in my 30s at the moment, almost mid-30s, which means that even if I live to the age of 80, I have roughly 45 years. Now, 35 years has already gone by really, really quickly. I can only imagine how quick 45 years goes. And so here's another problem is, if all I do is listen to people and it doesn't push us forward, right? And that's the thing is that I think I'm learning when to interrupt conversations. Because the conversation that we had that I had with that friend, the only time that we really were kind of necessarily at odds was during that tail end conversation where they were explaining their thoughts on something, which all I was really looking for is a definition of certain things. And I kept interrupting and pausing the conversation to get my point across, because when it comes down to it, what they were talking about wasn't necessarily pushing the theory, the overall theory further, which I think is the most important thing on this planet, or it, not necessarily on the, well, yeah, in this universe, is to figure out what is beyond this universe. That's the number one goal that I think we should all be striving for. Not did you listen to the latest Kanye song, or have you kept up with the Kardashians, or anything that is supposed to numb your mind and keep you away from figuring out where you truly have come from and why you're here on this planet and what's going on beyond this universe, right? And it's really difficult for me to just stand or just sit and listen to someone talk when it's not necessarily pushing that theory forward. And again, that's a judgment call that I'm making on that situation, but it's sorry, um, it's a judgment call that I'm making on that situation, but it's also, even though it may make me come off like a jerk, it's the truth, right? I mean, if I went into, if I was talking to someone that I can't even think of something off the top of my head, but someone that wasn't necessarily an expert in something, but someone that spent a lot of time thinking and dealing with certain subjects, and I went in and explained my theory, and it was not helping them out, and they continuously, interrupted and were able to, because they were able to explain their point of view, and maybe they've explained their point of view several times in other conversations that we've had, so they know where I'm coming from, and they just jump in and say, well, there's this, this, and this. Maybe those listening skills of just sitting there and keeping my mouth shut aren't helping the situation, and maybe, there's always two sides to what's going on, and I'm sorry, I'm a little distracted at the moment, just trying to get my thoughts to come out clearly, because this is kind of a negative, this is a kind of a negative session, and I'm still kind of recovering from the weekend. Not that I did anything crazy. I just felt a little under the weather, and I'm still trying to get my head there. But I want to keep the momentum of getting video or getting sessions out there. So I didn't want to lose another day. And so, you know, if this one seems a little off to you, it's mainly because of that. And I'm a little distracted because I'm not totally sure which route to go, because although it may be a little rude to interrupt people, it's also important to see the direction that they're going and sort of help guide it in, you know what, no matter what, I can't be right on this situation. And it sucks. And it's not about being right or wrong. It's about getting the best info and pushing it forward. But no matter what, no matter how I look at it, until people actually, you know, choose to be open, just like me, I need to choose to be open a little bit more too, I guess, because everything is kind of a projection of something else, right? The way that we feel about people is just a projection of sometimes how, in certain parts of how we feel about ourselves. Or something that we look at ourselves and think is lacking. And, you know, and it's definitely, listening is definitely something that's lacking in me. I can listen to a point, but when there's something that I don't agree on, or not necessarily even something I don't agree on, but something that I think could be expanded even further, and the other person isn't ready for that, it frustrates me. Because it feels like there's two things going on. One, I understand that not everybody's at the same level as I am, and it's mainly just because they don't have the time to dedicate to what I've been dedicating I guess, the last 6 to 8 months of my life towards. And, you know, so they're not, so the thoughts that they're having are thoughts that, for the most part, I've probably had, you know, 4 or 5 months ago, if not even earlier than that. And, you know, I'm not saying that to brag or anything. That's just the truth of it, the matter. That's just the facts. The facts are is that I've already thought of it. And so to me, it's kind of a waste of time. And I do my best to sort of expedite, I think that's the word, or to expedite, one of the two. But, like, I do my best to sort of get the theory up to the level that I'm at as fast as possible. And maybe that's just insulting to people, because they're still very much under the belief that, you know, we're all on our own journey, and their theory is, you know, maybe they want to keep their theory special to themselves and not want my interference. You know, which is a completely valid thing too. I mean, obviously I'm speculating a little bit, but who really knows? It just bothers me. It bothers me on a few levels. It bothers me that I could, you know, insult someone by interrupting them and, you know, doing my best to push their theory forward when maybe they don't want to. But it bothers me also on another level where they don't take into consideration the level that I'm at. It would be like going up to someone with a PhD and spouting off high school stuff to them and not thinking at all that you're wasting their time. And I understand how insulting that may sound. And I understand that those that are listening to this may hesitate on talking to me, but that's not what I want. What I would like in conversations is to push things forward and to challenge each other so that we start thinking smarter. I mean, almost every conversation that I have with myself to develop the theories that I have, I challenge myself on every point, going, is that the furthest you can take it? Is that the furthest you can take this point? Is that the furthest you can take that point? And as I build on other points, the points that I'd built on previously, new things open up, and so I go back to those points, and I say, okay, well, let's open up these points even further and develop the theory, even more. And it's very possible to do that with more people, but we all have to be under the same understanding that the key to it all is to be there for the theory, not for our own goodness and not to show up one another, but to be there for the theory. And whenever I talk to people and I interrupt them, I'm not there to make them feel small. I'm not there to make them feel bad about their theory or to take away their thoughts. I'm only there. I'm only interrupting because I think that I can add something of value. And to challenge that person to start thinking bigger. Because we're running out of time, guys. And although that might not make sense to you right now, I'll explain it to you in greater detail pretty soon. But we are definitely running out of time. And until we can start listening to people, and for those that are being listened to, and including me, can listen with an open mind and allow for new ideas to come through that push our theories further. We're just going to end up in the same cycles over and over and over again. And that's just it. So if we want to keep continuing the cycles that we're on, then let's not push anything further. But if we really want to live in an amazing, live amazing lives on this planet, plus figure out what's beyond that small speck of light, maybe it's time that we, stop being insulted by when people who maybe just a little bit more advanced in how we think interrupt and interject points to, in a sense, force people to think a little bit differently. And the thing is that happens to me too, and I need to become more open to that as well. I completely apologize if this session feels scatterbrained or negative or anything like that. It's just something that I needed to get out. I'm going to wrap it up here. You can connect with me on Twitter or on my website. The two things are in my placards or on the title cards. Twitter is at I'm MK Stevens, and my website is ruggedDiAMOND.com. I look forward to hearing from you, and I promise you that the next coming sessions are going to be a little bit more upbeat. Okay? Thank you very much for listening. Goodbye.